The primeval history ends with a scene we've come to know as the Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel takes place in Genesis chapter 11, verse 1, and we read these words. The whole earth had a common language and a common vocabulary. When the people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. Then they said to one another, Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They had brick instead of stone and tar instead of mortar. Then they said, Come, let's build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered across the face of the entire earth. There's a lot of things at stake within these few verses already that we see at work in the people's minds. First of all, they are not scattering across the whole earth. God has told them earlier, remember, to fill the earth and subdue it. And the people already have decided to not do what God has asked them to do. On top of that, they decided to make a name for themselves with this tower that goes to the heavens. Now remember, heavens is a Hebrew word which is a dual form. In other words, the two heavens, where the birds fly and where the planets are. And so this tower that goes to the heavens is a tower that's going to reach to the edge of creation. This is not a statement of hyperbole. This is a statement of genuinely going to the edge of heaven. It's been called storming the gates of heaven. These people are ready to take God on right at the edge of where God lives. They're going to get up there and they're going to make a name for themselves. Now, obviously, in American English, making a name for yourself is an idiom for becoming famous or doing something noteworthy. But in this case, to make a name for themselves, in the Old Testament, names give insight into character. Names are important things. A character will live up to or down to their name, depending on the situation. So to make a name for themselves is a statement of defining their character, defining who they are, apart from God. So in many ways we see within this Tower of Babel yet another example of this idea of hubris, of independence, that we don't need God anymore. And we're going to storm this gate of heaven. Then we have a little bit of humor in the text, I think. It's kind of fun. They're going to build this tower right to the edge of heaven, right? They're going to storm the gates of heaven. And in verse 5 we see, but the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the people had started building. So there's this sense that, we're going to storm the gates of heaven and build this tower all the way to the very edges, and the Lord can't even see them from where he is. Right? He has to come down to see what's happening. And the Lord said, if as one people, all sharing a common language, they've begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be beyond them. Come, let's go down and confuse their language so they won't be able to understand each other. So the Lord scattered them from there across the face of the entire earth. They stopped building the city. That's why it's called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the entire world. And from there the Lord scattered them across the face of the entire earth. So by their own actions, they brought about that which they feared. A little lesson in irony and fate taught to us by Oedipus as well. A lot of stuff going on in here. Much like the rest of the stories in the primeval history, the tower was also known in other ancient Near Eastern texts. The Babel Tower is in the Enuma Elish. Marduk actually celebrates it there. They take bricks and they bake them and they build this tower, and it took a whole year, and there was a room for Marduk and room for Ea and a room for Enlil, and there was celebration as they were there. But in the biblical text, we have another sort of corrective. We've had corrective regarding creation. We've had corrective regarding the flood. Now we have corrective regarding the tower. When you think of the tower, basically, think of it this way. It's a place of hubris, a place of arrogance, a place where people were wanting to defy that which God wanted. God was wanting them to spread around the entire earth. They decide not to do that. So once again, this close to the primeval history shows us that people actually have not changed that much. If anything, we're getting further and further away. And you can see that in the way the story is being told. Right? At the beginning, you have God who is walking in the garden with the man and the woman. Then you have God talking to Cain, and Cain talks to God. Then you have God talking to Noah. Noah never speaks back to God. It's only one-way communication. And by the time you get to the Tower of Babel, God is simply talking to God's self. That royal we has occurred once more. Let us go down and confuse that language. So we see humanity is not getting anywhere where God would want them to get. And so God's about to take a different tact. And as the primeval history comes to a close, we're going to see God do something new in calling out this person of Abraham and doing something very different.